What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 583rd episode of the Pokemon Podcast. Ye old 583. Easy to remember. My name is Steve. With me is Hannah.
I am here. I finished the DLC and I liked it a whole lot more than I thought I would. I'm excited.
Greg also here.
I am also here. I also finished the DLC. I hate it with every fiber of my being.
I am also here, and I loved the DLC, and we will be talking about the DLC after the break. So no one has to stress out right now. You can continue driving your car forward, or maybe backwards.
Or backward. Hey, do what you want with your car. It's your car. No rules apply.
Live your best life in your car or running on a treadmill. Whatever you're doing while you're listening to this podcast, keep enjoying it. We got a little bit of news, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk about the DLC, and then just the structure of it. Like the first part of the DLC will just be like the updates, like some of that stuff you don't even need to buy the DLC to experience, and then the other part will be the story. It's been out for about a week. Came out Tuesday night. This podcast goes up on Monday. This podcast will probably be longer than the entire story, so if you haven't finished it by then, just maybe...
Not wrong.
Maybe hit the pause button or something. I don't know. You can come back to it. I don't think waiting another whole week to talk about it is... I don't know. You're listening to a Pokemon podcast probably because... you consume Pokemon things.
There's not a lot to consume.
Okay, let's talk about the first bit. Where are my notes? Let's talk about the first bit of news. Our Pokemon Sleep check-in, as we've been doing for the last, 6 weeks. Did you guys get your Mime or your Mime Junior that debuted in the last week?
Nope. I got a Mime Junior. Also, I've noticed that my sleep has now just decided to decide when I went to sleep and when I woke up. Regardless of what buttons I hit, it's just like, nah, you only slept this much. That's not accurate, but fine. Whatever. Like today, I did not wake up until 9. It's like, oh, you woke up at 8:30. No, I rolled over, opened my eyes at 9 and hit the button, but sure.
Just there's probably too much movement.
You do you, friend.
Not seeing enough movement. Hannah, did you get your Mime?
I did not. I've been at the beach, and I've been getting better sleep than I have almost in the rest of my entire life, and I have not found a Mime or a Mime Junior at all, and that's fine.
You need worse sleep so the nightmare horror that is Mr. Mime shows up. That's the thing. You have to have bad sleep so the horror monster comes.
You're sleeping too good. I got a Mr. Mime, or I got a Mime Junior. He was not hungry, so I had to throw multiple biscuits. I threw multiple biscuits because I was like, I bet I'm not going to get another one, and I did not. So I have one now. Did you? Oh, the other. Apparently, new Pokemon are coming. They said that in the app. They also said, to celebrate with us, you can spend $50 if you would like on... What is that bundle called? I'm not exaggerating. It is a legit a $50 bundle. It is kind of insane.
I don't understand why they think these are reasonable prices for boxes.
Oh, it is called the 100 Million Pokemon Befriend Bundle Medium, which is 20 Great Biscuits, 6 Friend Incense, which are kind of like some of the better ones. Hard Candy Small 10, Hard Candy Medium 3, which I don't know how rare the candy stuff is because they've given a lot in the last month, but I literally just had to spend it because I didn't have space. So I was like, I feel like I'm wasting this because I have to pump it into somebody. But also, like, I just don't have the space to hold, 70 candy out of my 120 bag.
You just gotta spend the gems to upgrade the bag.
I have upgraded the bag, but then it kept being more and more candy.
It's cool that they're celebrating hitting 100 million players, though.
Yeah, I mean, besides the money
Besides
asking,
that, yep. They
it's
did
pretty
also
good.
give some things out for free. They gave out another free bundle that was nice. It also made my inventory hit the top, and I had to spend some things or use some items to accept all of the gifts.
On the free end of things, even though the game is asking for your money, their like gift bundles are way better than Niantic has ever done.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I don't
Better
know.
gifts for a worse game.
If you're keep hitting milestones or something, because every time they give gifts, it's pretty good. Just keep hitting different milestones. Speaking of money, the Santa Cruz skateboard collection came out.
It sure did. And left.
And if you had any expectations at all, that lasted about 30 seconds before everything out the window. So I learned a couple things here. Number one, scalpers, nothing is off limit for scalpers. Tickets, Pokemon cards, skateboards. Number two is I don't think I've hated TikTok any more in the past week than watching people just appear and be like, I'm opening 10 of these. Awesome. Cool. I would have loved to get one, but that's cool that you got 10. Also, the skateboard came out this morning. How do you have 10? I don't know, probably because your buddy works at Zoomies and sold them to you or something. Number three, I've learned almost every single TikToker called Ivysaur Bulbasaur.
Look, they are scalpers, not Pokemon professionals.
I didn't see a single TikToker properly say Ivysaur's name. It was all Bulbasaur. One person called him Venusaur, so shout out to that person. Here was my plan. I wanted 2 skateboards. I wanted one skateboard for the wall, and I wanted one skateboard to ride. And I have been eyeing skateboards for a long time. We have a lot of skateboard shops here in the Twin Cities. I've been to them with Will. I'm always like, maybe I should get a skateboard, and then I never do. And my thought process is, if I bought 2, whichever the bad one was, which would probably be Ivysaur, would be the one I would ride. And then if I got like a Pikachu or a Mewtwo, that's the one I would want on the wall. Woke up at what they went on sale, I think at 8 or something, 8 or 9. I woke up 5 minutes before, had my alarm set, sat there, and they were already on the website, and everything said coming soon. Like, you could see all the items that they were about to sell. They all said coming soon. And then 8 o'clock came, still coming soon for the skateboard, but the hoodies and stuff started coming in stock. And then 8:01, still coming soon. 8:02, it said unavailable, and I was like, are we done? Because it hasn't come in stock. 8:03, coming soon. I was like, okay. And then 8:04 and beyond, unavailable. There was no point ever that I could add this to my cart. It was just coming soon, unavailable, coming soon, unavailable, and then never came in stock.
And then gone.
That's wild.
I did get a hoodie. So, yeah, that was okay, I guess. Well, it hasn't shipped yet. And then I called every skate shop. It's a true story. I did it while I was live streaming the DLC. I called every skate shop, and they all said they were sold out. There was a couple skate shops. So Zoomies was like the big partner, I think. And I believe we had 3 Zoomies here in the cities, and one of them told me that each Zoomie's got about 10 in. I don't know how true that is. He said like all the Zoomies in the area all got 10 in, so that's maybe in like New York or something they got more, because obviously New York's a bigger city. But I called like a Vans, and then some of my Twitch chat also said like their Vans only got one in. So if you're a Vans store, you only got like one, maybe a couple more. And then I called 3 local skate shops. They didn't tell me how many they got, but it sounded like they had them for more than 10 seconds. It sounded like theirs lasted maybe 30 minutes or so, probably because people did go to Zoomies or what was the Van store. But everyone was sold out by noon because that's when I called. I called at like 11:30. I asked them all if we were getting restocks. They all said no, except the one Zoomies said there was a restock. There was apparently a Pokemon launch party on Saturday at select Zoomies from 2 to 5. And there would be a restock, which was yesterday as we're recording this podcast. I wish I could come on the show and tell you what a Pokemon launch party at Zoomies would have been like. But I was very ill yesterday. So I unfortunately did not get to go. Well, here, I wrote it down. It was the Ridgedale Zoomies, Greg.
Oh, fancy Zoomies.
So, not Mall of America Zoomies, which you would think would be the place they would hold it, but
Nah, Ridgedale's a fancier mall now.
As for resale prices, these boards were $109. Most on eBay, unopened. So, good. You're just buying it and opening it for yourself. Are about $300.
Oof.
There are 50 gold skateboards. There's 5 of them, so 250 in the world. Charizard, Mimikyu, Pikachu, Gyarados, and Eevee. And I believe the Pikachu sold the highest, which was around, I think, $4,000, and then the Eevee sold for $3,050. I know. I've also learned this on TikTok, that TikTok people don't know how eBay works. They're like, look at this Gyarados skateboard for $8,000. No, it has not sold. It has been $8,000 for 4 days. No one has bought it. The ones that have sold as of this podcast were a Pikachu. It did have like 50 bids. It sold for $4,000. Eevee had like 50 bids, sold for like $3,000. Maybe when this show goes up, I don't think Gyarados outsells a Pikachu or an Eevee. I don't think so. I think maybe
not.
I think Charizard does. I do not think. I don't know. Gyarados is cool, but he ain't no mascot. He ain't no starter Pokemon. So yeah, they look cool. They're skateboards. The other thing I learned is apparently not Zoomies, Santa Cruz has done this before with other brands. The actual like blind box thing, which I didn't know. So that's probably why. These were treated the same, because apparently releases like this at Santa Cruz gets bought out and then goes up on eBay. So I'm sure the Pokemon brand helped, but I'm sure any brand would have been purchased as quickly as possible and put up on eBay as quickly as possible. It'd be nice for a reprint. If they're gonna do that, but I don't think so.
Did all the clothing sell out?
No,
yes.
not all of it.
Unless they there's some like grip tape that's still in stock, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The green hoodie I think sold out relatively quickly. I bought the women's hoodie. I don't know. It did look like the other hoodie. I was like, I like this one better. I'm not sure why it's women's. Probably because like the shoulders are maybe thinner or something. But that one sold out last anyways.
Yeah.
But like when I say last, it was up for like 20 extra minutes. But I like that one the best. I thought it had the best design. Yeah. It sounds like a lot of people I'm always shocked that like skateboards sell really well, even though like a lot of them end up on walls. I'm not sure what the correlation between brands and skateboards are, but Here we are again.
Here we are in the wonderful world of scalping on eBay.
Yep, went about as expected.
I don't know how we deal with this trend. Like, I think there's like no way to stop this sort of nightmare thing unless the companies actively take any sort of steps to try to like control the timing of their stock or say limit one per customer. But even then, so many people set up these robot computers. Like, I have 17 Gmail addresses and they're all going to buy one.
Or maybe like one per person. But again, that doesn't stop employees from... the chart update. Beep, 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 beep. There is a Charizard at $6,000 with 3 bids. So, Charizard, the $8,000 Gyarados that has been up since Wednesday is still on eBay with no bids. I just want to say that Gyarados has been on eBay at $8,000 with no bids for multiple days now. Charizard has 3 bids, $6,000 as of this recording. This grip tape, which is on $45, 400. Oh, it's grip tape and the board. I was gonna say like the grip tape. Why? Who's buying this grip tape? It's still in stock. Don't buy it off eBay. I do like that eBay people are very good at clickbait, and I like the ones that take a picture of the gold boards on the packaging and says, and in the title it says gold foil possible.
Yeah.
And those have more bids
Uh-huh.
just because they put gold foil it's like
Possible.
for people who like pull Charizard in like the TCG.
Mm-hmm.
On eBay they'll put possibly PSA 10. Mm-hmm. But it's not even graded at all.
It's not even graded.
But it'll get more
Possibly.
bids because people search for the words PSA 10. So those go to the top.
Possibly Ancient Mew.
There's a Charmeleon for $600. No one's buying it.
Nobody's buying
Okay.
Charmeleon.
Hey, Ivysaur has $200.50.
Oh, yeah.
5
hey.
bids.
All right.
Ivysaur's not that bad.
That's a ringing
It's not.
endorsement.
Ivysaur, he's like
Of all
a
the bad things, Charizard's not as bad as Ivysaur.
Just less distinguishable than the other two. That's all.
Ivysaur's like a top 800 Pokemon. Look, he's like
Yeah, it's definitely within the top 800.
for sure.
For sure, the top 1,000.
Venusaur doing a little better here, like 285. A little more than. I don't see any Bulbasaurs though. It's very clear.
Well, I mean, that skateboard can mega, so.
Yeah, Mega Skateboard. The skateboards I saw opened the most were Ivysaur. I actually didn't see anyone open a Charmeleon. And Snorlax, surprisingly. Like one of the guys that bought like 10 skateboards, he opened 3 of them were Snorlax. And then he didn't get any gold. I can't remember. He got like Mewtwo, Pikachu, all that stuff. And then he decided to ride one of the Snorlaxes, which was like, I was like angry. I was like watching him open all 10 and I'm like fuming. I was like, I want one of those. And then like he decided to ride one of them. And I was like, okay, well, at least like you're the only person I've seen ride one. So like it kind of was cool to see it get beat up and be like, oh, okay, yep.
It's a skateboard.
It is indeed a skateboard. That was
and
a
you definitely can skate on said skateboard.
That was a sick board slide, man. Too radical. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Things are sought after. I'll go back to collecting $100 metal Pokeballs because apparently scalpers don't care about those.
I'm still waiting for the luxury ball. I have money set aside.
It's supposed to be this year.
Yeah,
I
that
know.
one coming out soon.
Not soon enough. The money's
Yeah.
just sitting in my savings account doing nothing, taunting me to like spend it on actually food or something since I don't have a job still. It's like, you should maybe pay a bill. And I'm like, no, this is luxury ball money. It's earmarked.
The last bit of non-DLC news, I think, is there's 2. There's number 1. There's the illustration contest is coming back. I don't have enough energy to complain about it like I do every year, but there are very talented artists out there, so shout out to the people with talent, not me. Greg, did you try Blaziken in Pokemon Unite?
I haven't. I've seen, because it's still gems, right? Like it's not coins yet. I've seen Blaziken being played, and it is one of the most high skill ones they've added. Like you have to know what you're doing, because its Unite move switches it between a different. So it has one set of attacks, and when you Unite, it switches it to the other set of attacks. So its Unite move charges really quickly so that you can pop between all the different attacks, which is like...
It doesn't Mega, does it?
It doesn't Mega.
Oh, okay.
But knowing when to switch between and use your Unite properly, like I need distance or I need power, like I think it's a very good and balanced Pokemon, but I think people are mad at it because it really requires a lot of skill to play well. And if you don't know what you're doing, like I have no idea how to play that thing. I'm like, I have no clue when I should be switching. I have no idea what's appropriate. It feels real bad. Especially since they still haven't nerfed Mewtwo Y, and the meta is atrocious right now. Like the game is back in a place where you either are steamrolled or you steamroll. It's so rare that you have something in between right now because things are so unbalanced. And I think people are really hoping Blaziken would change the balance, and it probably will for people who know how to play that character. If you don't, it's nigh impossible to like get the best out of the thing. It's cool, but yeah, it's a toughie.
It sounds cool because I feel like in the past, like we had that Unite podcast, and it was like, oh, if you just want to like easily win on ladder, just like pick Mewtwo or Zacian and just spam the win button.
That is still the case.
Which is like, look, there are definitely the game tells you like this is a easy Pokemon to play or this is a hard Pokemon to play. But I never felt like the ones that said they were hard were actually like that much harder. Yeah. So it's cool that you're saying like this one has like a different skill level. Like in my head, I'm thinking like Hoopa is a lot harder to play.
And like Mew's a lot harder to play because it's important to sort of know which moves to pick at which time, which I think Blaziken is more complicated than that because you can just stick with your same moves with Mew and get the benefit and just be like, this is the way I play it. You really have to understand and master both sides of Blaziken to get the most out of that character. The thing that makes me excited about it is I want to see how it plays with professionals. I want to see a professional be good at that character and wreck house, because it's a weird chicken, so it's just fun to watch it run around. But seeing somebody who really knows how to play it makes it much more exciting, and you're like, wow, I wish I could do that. I can't. I have no way of doing that. It's so complicated.
Really good to know that I shouldn't come back to Unite for one of my favorite Pokemon, because I can barely play the easy characters.
Yeah, I think, like, a lot of people have multiple mains, like, oh, I can switch to this if the one that I want. And I really think if you're a Blaziken main, you just need to stay with Blaziken and learn how to play it. And that's, like, the character you play to be really good at it. And again, I will say that nothing in Unite is all that difficult. It is sort of like point yourself at another thing and hit the button and try to kill it. I think what makes Blaziken more difficult is the fact that to get the most out of it, to actually have it really feel like it's pulling its weight compared to a Mewtwo Y, which is literally just look in the direction of something, hit a button, and it explodes. You really need to be aware of how the game plays and the right moments to do the right thing. I will never say like any of the characters are all that difficult really all that difficult to play to be able to win a match. But if you want to really be able to turn the tide, you really have to know how to play that character.
And then Mimikyu is next, right?
Mimikyu is next.
Cool. Which another...
Or is Mimikyu... Yeah, I think it's Mimikyu and then Meowscarada. I think that's the order.
Which, 2 very popular Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Meowscarada probably the starter that came out on top with popularity.
And it's got a weird shadow teleport ability that I've seen... I've only seen it move, like I've seen a short clip of it, and I'm vastly curious how that whole thing works.
Love how the cat standing up ended up being the most popular one.
Yeah. It's almost like the Pokemon Company knows their audience more than like Twitter just complaining they don't want a cat to stand up.
I mean, I still don't want a cat to stand up, but
other people do.
But other people do.
Apparently a lot of other people want the cat to stand.
They did pretty well.
I mean, I don't love Meowscarada. I don't hate it. I think he's cool, but I like Incineroar a lot. But I don't think that's because Incineroar is standing. I think that's just because, you know, what Incineroar is based off of was something I just really like. So maybe there's a lot of Magician fans out there.
There are so many Magic people out there who are into the Magics and not the gathering, the actual pulling things out of gathering.
All right. We'll gather ourselves up for a break here, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about DLC. Again, we're going to be talking about, first, we're going to be talking about like the update itself, which adds a lot. And then, you know, if you haven't finished the story, we'll give you a clear indicator of when story time happens. So we will be right back. And we are back from our break. So the DLC came out around, what was it, like 8 o'clock Central Time on Tuesday?
Right on time as every report. So choke on that.
Actually,
Sports Illustrated called it, and it was right.
Yeah, we can always rely on Sports Illustrated for the latest and greatest Pokemon news. Which would have been about 10 a.m. Japan time, which the official quote was, it will come out the morning of Japan. The morning of Japan will bless us
the only morning that exists, 10 o'clock.
Yeah. 10 a.m. is apparently what Pokemon considers morning. So it came out. We also got the 2.0.1 update, which for me was... Did it fix the leg? I'm going to say no.
It did not.
I will say there, again, maybe this is a placebo or maybe I've just been playing too long. I do feel like there are instances where it's like slightly smoother. Like I feel like there's like a 3-second period from going from point A to point B. In the 30 seconds, 3 of those 30 seconds are like, oh,
this isn't
it feels a little smoother right here. But I did try leg. I did try the leg forest. It's laggy still, and you know it's been 10 months and it's still laggy.
The one thing when I went to, I want to say it's a festival, and they were fanning themselves, and the fans were doing. And I'm like, you know what? Come on.
Why even have yes, when they're at the festival and the fans are obviously 1 frame a second. Why even have them fan? Just have them hold the fan. Just have them hold it.
I was just like, it's not. There's not even a lot of them here. There's not even a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, it's not that crowded.
There's like 2 people, and neither one of them know how to not robotically move their fan.
Ooh, and another good check was I went to the old reliable windmill in the grass gym.
Nope.
And if you're curious, old reliable for a reason. We're still moving at 3 frames a second on that bad boy. So yeah, like that was a bit of a bummer that there was not a maybe there was a performance thing. Like there are people saying they feel like their game runs smoother. I said there was like when I say small pockets, I mean the tiniest pockets where it feels like, did they fix it? Oh wait, never mind. The game's about to lock up. What they did fix is the PC boxes. And as much as we just complained about the frame rate and laughed about it, I am so happy, and it feels great that the PC boxes feel like a normal PC box again. I don't know what magic they did for that, but it feels great to scroll through the boxes and everything loads. Yeah. At most, maybe it's like a half a second, but like you can literally see like day and night difference with the PC boxes. So they did
fix something. Yeah, I will say, like, I was scrolling through my
something.
PC boxes to find something for a raid, and I'm like, oh, I don't have to wait for things to pop in. I don't have to have like the bizarre blank square where I know things are, but they haven't loaded in, and I appreciate that. Again, it is a minor thing that shouldn't have been a problem in the first place, amongst a lot of minor things that are still a problem.
It's like one of those games where there's so many minor things, it just makes you hyper.
Yeah, it's hard not to hyper focus on the things that you notice, because it's just like there's a rock in my shoe, and every time I shake my shoe, I see a rock come out, and I put my shoe back on, and there's another rock in my shoe.
But there could be a rock in your shoe, but if you walk just a certain way,
you won't notice it.
That's this game in a nutshell. So boxes fixed, frame rate not.
Raids are a mixed bag.
Yeah, so there was a fix in the raid. You can now see. Thanks for bringing that up, Greg. You can now see heal cheer and defense cheer. It was, I guess, confirmed by Anubis, who is she is one of the people who I don't know if I would consider her a data miner, but she does run software on her computer that just like tells her what's happening in the game. She'll post screenshots of it. But she was the one that she's the one that kind of confirmed all the recent shiny hunting. That's how we know how Sword and Shield shiny hunting works. After 3 years, she was the one that was like, I figured it out. She was the one that figured out Let's Go. Again, 3 years later, we now know how Let's Go. It was because of her. Same for Legends Arceus. She figured out right away. That's when Sarumi updated. And then she figured out it in Scarlet and Violet. So she was the one that said, hey, these cheers don't stack. They do last random amount of turns. And then she was like, I don't care enough to keep figuring it out.
Valid.
So the very valid. The Pokemon Company ain't paying her anything. So we do. She was right. They don't stack. You can test it yourself. You can do 2 attack cheers. Well, in online multiplayer, they don't stack. And they do last a random amount of turns. So it can go anywhere between 2 and 6 turns. It shows you that. Most of the time, it seems to be just 2 turns. We do now know that the raid boss can clear that buff as well. So if you attack cheer and then all of a sudden it says raid boss has cleared your stats, it does clear that buff, whether that's defense or attack. So it's a great, it's very helpful. More communication in raids is really, really helpful, right? Like, and hopefully that in itself tells people that these are good buffs that you should be using. It's really a great change. I don't think raids run amazingly smooth still. Like they still lock up a little bit, but
they're not fixed.
They sure
they're
do
just
lock
slightly
up.
better.
I was in one where I was like, I'm not moving. Things are happening. Oh, our timer bar is now half. I guess a bunch of things died. I have no idea what actually happened, because when I popped back in, apparently to catch up to real time, everybody was back up. So a number of people had died and respawned in the amount of time it took for my game to be like, oh, hey, did you maybe want to do a move? How about now? Thanks.
I definitely felt like raids were choppier around like release. Maybe because that was just like an influx
I think it was
of
a
people.
huge influx of
like,
people.
But like it does feel like it's smoothed out. Like I did a handful of raids before I went to bed last night, and they all ran relatively smooth. Like besides the whole like wait 2 seconds for your move to hit, but obviously the game's trying to calculate everyone at once, and who knows. But that's seeing things in raids are good. The other thing, I don't know if it's fixed. Don't know if it was intentional. We knew that there were 5 new marks, ribbons, whatever you want to call them, marks and ribbons. One was the item finder. It was told to us that it was broken, and it magically worked when the DLC came out. We could speculate for the next hour whether it was broken or whether they were just going to turn it on for the DLC. Obviously, there's a lot of items in the game that don't get turned on until the DLC. If you want me to speculate, I feel like they were just saving it to turn it on. It's called the item finder mark. It is when you use the Let's Go feature and you send your Pokemon out to pick up an item. There's a 1 in 100 chance that you get the mark on your Pokemon, so you can earn it on any Pokemon. The reason I kind of think that like they were just saving it for the DLC is, number one, there's still another one that doesn't work, which I'm assuming will come out with the next DLC. And number two is, if you've explored the DLC for 10 minutes, you will quickly realize there are items everywhere.
Somebody broke a piñata over Kitakami, and it is littered. Like, you cannot go 2 feet without something shining in the grass at you. And I'm like, leave me alone. I just want to move.
I kind of like it because it does remind me of Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, where like I feel rewarded for walking around. I'm like, even when I'm done picking up items, I'm like, oh, what was I doing? And then I was like, it doesn't matter. There's more items over here. I'll just go over here for now. So yeah, there's a brand new mark. Whether or not you thought it was broken, it's working now. It works great. I've gotten it on like 10 Pokemon. So sometimes it takes an hour. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes. It's all RNG, baby.
RNG.
So they added that. I don't use the lock-on feature. Apparently that's fixed. I didn't know it was broken. I don't use it, but people were saying that the L button.
They fixed that, did they? Okay.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people very excited that they fixed it. I don't use it at all, so I didn't know how bad it was.
Well, I stopped using it because it didn't work. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, why? It's like what I did. It took me years to understand that Sword Dance was fixed because it never worked in Gen 1, so I was convinced, like, well, these are just broken, useless moves. And it took like 3 generations to be like, oh, no, they work properly now.
So the lock-on thing apparently works. I cannot tell you what. I just know it was bad. But people were saying it works now, so that's cool. What else did they fix? Pretty much everything I'm saying you don't need to pay for the DLC. Like, you can, if you didn't buy the DLC, you can still get the item finder mark. It works in Paldea. You can pick up items in Paldea. It will work fine. There's probably a couple fixes, so if I remember more, I'll bring it up. We'll move on to just features in the DLC. The first one I want to talk about that I absolutely love is very shortly after the bus stop, which is my new favorite location.
You never leave it.
There's a there's a character that will update your Pokedex or your Rotom Dex, and you can change the theme of your Rotom Dex, which very minor, very small, but I love it. You go into your Pokedex a lot, and to be able to just change that color, customize it, it's great. Like, more customization, good. That character was a nice little surprise. It made me, that little feature alone made me buy every single Rotom case in the entire game. I bought them all. I needed to know what they all look like. The Quaxley one is great. If you sync to Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, that one is great. Legends is great. If you forgot about those,
that syncs with your Rotom phone case. It's the region that syncs with your Dex.
Yep.
theme.
There's a couple of things that have changed. I haven't really explored it a whole lot, but there's a lot more customization available in your decks. Not your character. There's not a lot of more clothing. No, there's not.
Some. There's some more hairstyles.
They did add new clothing. They added more hairstyles, but if you go
thankfully, and they added more variety of hairstyles to meet a bigger demographic, which is always appreciated. Steve's running around with the Moonbrita Final Fantasy 14 hairstyle.
Yeah, Skrillex. They did actually add more clothing though. They added like a Grievered beanie. They added the beanie that the professor wears in Legends Arceus. So at a certain point you'll get what's called like the teal ticket, I think. Just a character gives it to you. It's really, really early on you get the ticket. I think it's when you get the DLC outfit. What's that called, Hannah? The outfit your character's wearing?
I don't remember. Sorry.
I expected you to know. You are my Japanese expert. I don't want to name it wrong. It's not a Kiyomo.
If you spell it, I can say it.
Oh, I can't. I don't remember what it's called. The little Japanese outfit they wear at the festival. I can't remember what it's called. When you get that outfit for the first time, you get the little ticket. So the ticket gives you more hairstyles. Yeah. And then if you go back to Paldea, stores will have updated inventory. New shoes, new socks, new hats, probably new glasses. The DLC has its own little store with the masks and stuff. But I don't think you can access most of that until you beat the story. But that's not like a surprise. You see the masks, you know that you'll be able to wear the masks eventually.
Yeah.
So
there are also new stools for when you're picnicking.
There are new stools. There are new stools for reasons.
They have updated the picnic stuff. That's true. No, this stuff you have to spend the $40 for. You just can't go back to Paldea and just be like, I want the new hats. Like it is part of the 40. Is it 35 or is it 40? I just keep saying 40 because tax makes it 40.
It's like
I think it's 35 plus
35
tax.
Plus
so
tax.
yeah,
I think that's right.
So yeah, there's that character. There's the picnic people. I completely forgot about the picnic people.
I put a lot of effort into collecting all of the picnic, the tablecloths in the main game, and so when I went and got all the stools, it kept going. It was all the stools.
Meanwhile, I was like, "Oh, you have two? Yeah, I don't care about picnics. All right, well, here's a stool."
I would maybe care about picnics if they didn't look so pixelated. It doesn't look real great when you go in. What else? A lot of items on the ground. We talked about that.
New TMs.
The other change. Okay, so going back to you don't have to spend money. They fixed a lot of the outbreak stuff. And when I say fixed, again, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but if you are listening to this podcast and you maybe played 2 or 3 times a week, I promise you that every single outbreak you saw every day was probably like Flittle, Buizel, and like Frostlass. And then like you would be so lucky if you didn't see Flittle, but you were probably seeing Flittle like every day in outbreaks. I haven't seen a Flittle since the update. I have seen so many new outbreaks in both obviously in Kitakami, I see a bunch of new outbreaks because they're all new Pokemon. But in Paldea, I've seen Scatterbug, never seen a Scatterbug. Saw Larvesta, never saw Larvesta. What else did I see that was really cool? I saw Hariyama. Don't need Hariyama. It was really cool to see a Hariyama outbreak, though. They must have changed the percentage that these raids pop up. And which like makes sense, like whether or not it was like broken or this is intentional. Like the game's 8 months old, so it just breathed. It just pushed in a breath of fresh air into those outbreaks. Again, I saw a Cyclozar raid. The outbreak. I know they existed. I know other people have gotten them. I've played this game like every day for the last 8 months. I've never seen one. So, again, you don't need to spend the $40 for that. If you know, one of the reasons you put the game down is because you got a Flittle outbreak every day. Flittle no more.
You missed your shot. You'll never see one again.
You're gonna be so excited when you finally see a Flittle because it's gone. So yeah, that is different. Apparently, if you go down into Area 0, there was something where like Roaring Moon or Fluttermane didn't spawn based off sandwiches because of something. Now they do. That actually sounded broken.
It was.
Yeah.
It was very broken. I
broken.
tried to catch so many Fluttermane for people, and it was always a slog.
Yeah, so that sounded like an actual issue that they fixed. So that's great. There was another issue. We only know this because of Anubis, where the Antique Sinistee would not spawn in a level 3 sandwich outbreak. But if you did a level 1 or 2, it would spawn, but that wasn't as good because obviously you want level 3. And they're reporting that as fixed. So if you do a level 3 Antique Sinistee, it will work properly. Probably just related to the general outbreaks seem good, finally. But, yeah. So don't need the $40 to have good outbreaks. Great. Like there's a lot of good changes here without spending money.
Yeah, and you can get. You should see raids from people putting them up from the DLC.
Yep. Yeah. So they added the Kid Economy Pokedex should be about 100. The Pokedex itself is 200 total. There's not that many new Pokemon. Obviously, there's the Loyal 3. There's Ogerpon. There's a couple others. But there's 90 something returning Pokemon. And then, you know, if you completed your Scarlet and Violet Dex, you should go into the DLC with anywhere between 100 to maybe like 103, I think. And the only reason 103 would exist is because Basculegion is a Pokemon, and then like Carbink. Like, those were Pokemon you could technically move in the last, like, month because they updated the game. So, you got, like, 100 Pokemon to catch. Now, you could just connect a Pokemon home and move them all over and be like, well, I got nothing to do. You're right. You did that yourself. And by all means, if that's what you wanted to do, cool. I enjoy catching Pokemon. I enjoy filling out my decks. I think Greg has talked about maybe he doesn't care about catching Pokemon again. I like it.
I mean, I caught them all,
but
because
Greg,
it was easier than
what
it was
option
easier
did
than
you do?
doing
Did
my
you do the home
garbage
option?
because my home is disorganized mess. And I'm like, I don't care.
So you just
Yeah, I
caught
just
them?
caught them.
Yeah.
Although
I liked it.
I will say this, I did run into you're stuck at 199 out of 200. Weirdness.
Oh, I did hear about this.
You have to catch a white striped Basculin.
Oh, was that your last
Yep.
one? Oh.
Because it will mark Basculin as complete. But to complete the Pokedex, you have to have caught a white stripe Basculin. Because I caught everything else, and I'm like, it's complete. I have nothing left. And then I came across a white stripe, and I'm like, you can't be serious. And they were serious.
That's amazing. My last Pokemon was Duskull, because the game the DLC will force you into time zones until you complete it. So I was in like the morning for almost the entire playthrough because I just wasn't progressing the DLC. I was just like, I'm just going to catch everything. And Duskull only appears at night. So that was like literally my last one. So as soon as the game was like, okay, now it's nighttime, I was like, I got to go find
I gotta go
Duskull.
find Duskull. And they're pretty easy to find, but you know where to look.
Yeah, once nighttime happens. Hannah, how did you like your Dex collecting experience?
I'm still not quite done yet, but I am enjoying it. I have been using the new and improved lock-on feature quite a bit. It works. I don't know. I am enjoying having more things to work on in the game again. I don't set that many independent goals. I don't shiny hunt. I don't mark hunt. I'm enjoying having a Pokédex to complete again.
So I will, there's two things I have to say about the region. One, it is as bland as I feared it was going to be from the preview. It is just Paldea with some rice fields. There's a giant ugly
there's only one rice
There's a
field.
giant ugly mountain in the middle that looks like a lump of clay. The thing that actually made me want to explore it is they did the caves so much better in this DLC. Like running into a Hoot Hoot cave, running into a Mamoswine cave or a Swinub cave. Like, that's kind of exciting. Like, I found a colony, and now I'm going to raid your colony for each and every one of you.
Those do exist in Paldea, too. There are just fewer of them, and they're harder to find.
Right.
And they're just broken.
Right, and they're
sometimes.
just straight up broken sometimes. I thought that I liked the fact that it is smaller. It doesn't look any particularly better. It doesn't look like a particularly new, exciting region. You come up from a bus stop, there's some rice fields, and then it's Paldea, and there's once again a giant mountain in the middle for no real good reason, and it looks like a weird lump of clay.
Look, the Hoot Hoot Cave was one of my favorite parts of the whole DLC.
I like the Hoot Hoot Cave.
It's great. If you have not found the Hoot Hoot Cave, I hope you do find it.
I found the Geodude
There's
Cave.
Also
it's less exciting, but
that
it felt
sounds
like
miserable.
it was in Sinnoh, so, going back to Sinnoh days.
that sounds bad. What else? Okay, so Pokédex is... so I heard people were getting stuck at 199, but that was because one Pokemon is hidden behind a little side story, which I don't think we need to spoil that for this episode. I think we could save that. But that side story I think is great.
I do like
think
that
it's
side
fantastic.
story. It is making me question how they're classifying certain things. I'm like, we really need to sort of look at what regions are and what these games are. But it is that is a fun little storyline, and I enjoyed that storyline.
Okay, so there are two side stories. There's the one that gives you a Pokemon, and then there's one with two rich people that you meet very early
Who
on.
I adore, and I want to be them. I want to follow them. I want to know everything about their lives. I want a reality show about them. They are such terrible, awful people that I am fascinated into every aspect of their life. And I want their outfits. I want their hairstyles. Everything. I want to know everything about these two jerks.
Yeah, so we won't go in depth of those two side stories, but we will. I will just in case. I don't know if we're going to go full story right now, but we'll do the hey, after this part, we gave you your warning. But there is a Pokemon behind one of those two side stories. So if you're missing a Pokemon, go do that. The one thing I will say about that is people are always like, I wish they would add more stories to legendaries or mythicals. They always say back when they did in Gen 5, which I was around during Gen 5, taking a single boat to an island and walking straight into a tower where Victini is not a side story.
It's kind of. It's just a short story. It's a very short story.
There's nothing there. There's no one to
story.
battle.
Yeah, there is. There's a Pokemon trapped on an island. Go save it.
That's it. There's no story. You literally entered a 16-digit code that gave you an in-game item for a boat ticket. You take the boat to the island. There is nothing. There's not a single item on the island to pick up. I think there's maybe one person to talk to, and they're like, my pants fit great. And then you catch Victini. That's it. That's the whole story.
Not every story is a Nobel Prize winner.
What they did, for everyone that's like, I wish they used to do in Gen 5, they did in this DLC. They did it. You talk to the person, you start the mission, you get the thingy thing. It's a cool Pokemon.
Story.
And this was not. They did this in. I'm pretty sure there was something like this in Crown Tundra.
I mean, there is with
Keldeo.
There's with Keldeo.
They did the whole thing
I mean,
with
technically,
Keldeo.
you could also say the Galarian Birds is, a story. Like, you have to do the ticket.
I was talking to people this week that didn't even know Keldeo was in the Crown Tundra. For everyone that's complaining, again, that like, they need to bring back stuff like Gen 5, you talk to Sonia. She's like, follow these footprints. You got to find 3 different sets of footprints. Then they give you the Swords of Justice. You got to catch each one of them. And then once you get all 3 Swords of Justice, you can go to the little cooking... I can't believe we're talking about this. You go to the little cooking pot that is below the giant, big pink tree. So with with Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion in your party, you do the cooking minigame. Doesn't matter what you cook. You can fail it as long as you do it next to the little fire pot. And then Keldeo will spawn there. And there's a whole, like, Sonia talks to you in between all of this stuff. Like, every time you catch one of these things, she has a story for you. And you can catch Keldeo. It's shiny locked. It's a mythical Pokemon. It's not only is it like 18 times longer than the Victini thing, there is infinite more words than the Victini thing, because there's no words to the Victini thing. It is welcome to the boat. You've made it to your destination.
Brevity is the soul of wit.
So yes, this game has a Pokemon with a story that's very good. Crown Tundra had the same thing with Keldeo. Spoiler: the DLC is not Keldeo. Keldeo is not here yet. So yeah, that stuff exists. I guess I can't think of other talking points right now. Let me look at my notes. But as I'm thinking of that, let's just get the story stuff out of the way.
Spoiler:
here.
We're starting the story. Turn away now.
I do have more stuff, but that's all right. It's story time. Hannah said that... Let's start with Hannah, because you said you liked it. We didn't really get your thoughts or impressions with Scarlet and Violet because we had Greg and Al, and then you came on, and then Will left to the Shadow Realm. But you said you liked it, so the floor is yours.
I liked it primarily because there was more to do with the Paldea story than I was expecting. So I did enjoy the Kitakami story as a story. I have some of the same qualms that I'm sure Greg will bring up. But they started off with a new character who we had seen in the trailers, who started talking about the Scarlet book and the Violet book, and we get to learn a little bit more about that. And it's just at the beginning and at the end with a little bit in the middle, but it's starting to make it sound like the theories I am excited about are going to come to fruition in the last DLC. So there was a whole lot more there in this DLC than I was expecting. I was expecting nothing. And when this started out by talking about the books, I got excited.
They laid groundwork. I honestly wish I could have just hung out with Briar the entire time and told everybody else to go jump in the lake. I would have rather have spent my entire time with the puking kid.
I love that
kid is great. Give me Briar, give me the puking kid, and I would have been happy.
That actually, not to get too sidetracked, that's one of my complaints, is they pair you with
Randos.
3 useless characters.
But I still prefer the puking kid over the brother and sister.
When that story again, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. I was hoping something would happen with these 3 useless characters, but nothing do. They don't even attend. There's a point where like everyone is in the town to like meet Ogerpon, and they don't even show up to that. They're nowhere. They could have.
They're just there to tell you like, hey, we're gonna go to dinner. And I puke a lot.
They're like, let's get the whole town together to meet Ogerpon, and then 3 other people on the field trip aren't even there.
The other part that I really like is the clearly doesn't care Poke Center worker who just spends her entire time on the phone and cannot be.
Oh, she cannot
awesome. Be bothered.
Millennial
with you.
Nurse Joy is incredible.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, what do you want? I'm swiping. Just put him in the thing.
Put him in the thing. She's like swiping on. She's like healing your Pokemon, and as soon as they're healed, she's like, "I'm back to Snapchat."
She is
I'm done
brilliant.
here. She's awesome. They could have there was Martin and Solrock in Sword and Shield had more personality and character than the 3 people they stuck with you. Like they could have put Nimona doesn't have to
No.
be there, but there are literally anyone else could have been there and been a better.
The one kid who was supposed to be stuck with Carmine did have valid complaints throughout the entire time, every time you talked to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So my question, Hannah, is: you said they laid groundwork. It was more than you expected.
Yes.
Leading theories.
Yes.
Like what stood out to you theory wise that
The lake.
The lake.
The lake.
Oh, the lake.
Yes.
The lake.
So the lake that has the Terra crystals that do something that is not past and future, as well as the fact that the music is the same music that is in Area Zero. If you're there for long enough, this whole singing starts up, and that was super exciting. But
Oh, I didn't get that. I wasn't there.
you
long
have to
enough
be there
know.
for
You have to
a
be there for
little
a while.
But it's very exciting. The theory that I'm excited about is that past and future is not actually what these crystals do, and this leads towards that being maybe right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It I will say this. I agree with Hannah. It is much more. They seem to at least in some way be pointing towards dimensional and not past and future, which is a much more exciting thing. Who knows? Again, they lay a lot of theory groundwork that they do not follow up on.
But they're following it this time.
Yeah, we said that about Legends Arceus, and at the end, you're like, they went or not, naff, whatever, we're done, bye.
I think the reason I like this DLC, and I know maybe this is why Greg doesn't, is the DLC literally ends with a to be continued.
That's not why I don't
And-
like it. I'm fine with it to be continued. I'm
because
mad about who I have to continue
really-
it
I-
with.
Oh, sure. And we can get to those characters. But I really did like that the DLC was just like a big ol' to be continued. I really liked it. I think with the Isle of Armor, there's no story
No, not
there.
really.
There's a lot of lore. And it's good lore, like knowing that Mustard was like Leon's teacher and the honey, like the lore in Isle of Armor is good. The story, non-existent. But that's like
It's fine.
fine. It was fine. The story in the Crown Tundra was fine. I like the characters in this DLC more. But I thinking about Peony, and I don't remember her
Peonia.
other name. Peonia. I just didn't relate to those characters at all. It was funny when Calyrex took control of Peony. That was very humorous, but I don't even remember what happens at the end there besides you pick a horse. That was cool. The little rabbit rides the horse. Also cool.
Yeah.
And then
This is actually a story.
Yeah, I mean, they had completed the story really of Sword and Shield, and there wasn't much more to tell other than what the other regions were doing. And there is a story in Crown Tundra of solving mysteries, and you do solve the mysteries. That's what's the mysteries of the Crown.
there's a lot of little ones.
What's the mysteries of the Crown Tundra? And here's Rose's hotter younger brother running around, and his daughter doesn't like him. And it was really the Crown Tundra story was really to explain why all the legendaries and the Ultra Beasts are here. It was an excuse. There was a lore excuse to put them there, which I at least appreciate the thought of putting there, but it's not a deep story. This DLC is not a deep story.
But the characters are actually characters. I know you don't like them. I'm not saying they're good, but they're characters. They actually
So
have
in-
personalities.
In wrestling, they make characters that you're supposed to purposely hate. And I feel like they did that here. You are supposed to. Oh, this is my. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what my takeaway from it was you were supposed to like Kiki. I don't remember his full
Kieran.
name. She just calls him Kieran. You're supposed to like Kieran and then hate Carmine, and then at the end of it, it's supposed to switch. I think that was their goal.
I think that is the tropes that they were trying to play with, and I would argue they failed so spectacularly
I liked it.
because nothing angers me more in a story when me as a main character are purposely written to be mentally and emotionally unintelligent, and I am forced to participate in abuse and bullying that I cannot make any active actions to either opt out of it or change it. And when she is called to the carpet for it, she says the one thing that made me put the thing down and walk away was, I am being kind. I didn't hit him. And I'm like, are you kidding? You are emotionally and psychologically abusive. When you're called to the carpet, your defense is that you didn't physically hit a person and that we're supposed to be okay with this. I am not okay with this. I am not okay that you forced me to lie to this person. I am not okay that you forced me into actions that make me participate in the actual bullying of an actual character that I'm never allowed to make a meaningful change to. And then I have to continue this in the next storyline. No, this is inappropriate. I don't care that I'm supposed to hate them. When you have in your main storyline a story about the damage that bullying does, and then you force me to participate in bullying in your DLC, absolutely not. That is unacceptable.
I liked it. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I hated Carmine and had to kind of pretend I wasn't the one going along with it. It was.
I don't think it's that different from N, and what what Getsus does to N. I don't think it's that different from what Lusamine does to Lily.
Correct. But
you are participating in both of those situations too, and you don't have a choice.
But with Lily, you are building Lily up. You are building Lily, and you are changing her to become her own person. You have an effect to build her and get her out of that relationship. And the same with N.
And she still chooses to stay into it.
She doesn't.
She's still like,
She
I'm
walks
helping my
away. She
mom.
leaves. She goes to Kanto. She says her goodbyes. She does what she needs to do to sever ties, and then she leaves. And also does the same thing and realizes his mistake, realizes that he's been manipulated, and also chooses to walk away. Now, they may attempt to fix this, but in neither case are you directly having to side with the abuser. You do not ever side with Gestus, and you never go on the side of Lusamine. And you are forced to go on the side of Carmine, and you are forced to be with her, and you are forced to follow her.
I think there's a big difference between Lusamine and Getsus and
There
Carmine.
are.
You were talking about two adults and then an actual child. And I think Carmine and Kiki's relationship is so... This is why I liked it. It's so relatable to me and my siblings. Like, the little things that she says, or the little things that he says, they set each other off. And if you're an outsider, you're like, that wasn't really that big of a deal. But also, I've been in that situation, and, like, I can see why. Like, there's a point where she's like, hey, just go find something to do. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And she gets mad. And like, I 100% relate to that, like, why she got mad. But also, I 100% relate to or Kiki being like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, yeah, whatever. But, like, I see why both got mad in that situation. And that dialogue is, like, the entire story. And I, like, loved that because I can relate to that so much. I have four siblings.
I have a sibling.
So it's like,
I understand that dynamic. I've lived in that dynamic as well. I think...
So when Carmine is like, I yelled at him, I didn't hit him. Like that has happened so much in my household,
and that's still not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing, but it's the story they're trying to tell, and it's like relatable. Of like, I remember when I was like 15, and I said the same thing to my parents. Like, I didn't hit Sabrina, I just yelled at her, and it was like,
but Carmine's
my
like
parents
that
would be like,
to
stand in the
everyone.
corner.
But
Carmine's just a bully.
But Carmine's just, and also, when she says he didn't hit him, the grandfather just drops it. Like, yeah, I guess you're right. Well, let's talk about the mask. It's like she's never held by any adult to any standard that would say, hey, you're this behavior is beyond the pale. Like, you are.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a payoff. The story's only like 2 hours long. Like I feel like everything in the story was just set up.
Maybe
I don't know. Like, as somebody who watches wrestling, and you're like, you hate this person, you literally have to wait like 2 years before the payoff comes. Of like, okay, now I actually like the pay. It was worth it. Like, all of this drama was worth it for like the story they're trying to tell.
I don't expect to like Carmine.
No.
I am hoping to see Kieran be okay.
Also, like, this is it's also really, really heavily tropey. Like, I also just completed this exact storyline in Pokemon Masters. Like, I'm just like, I'm over this idea. I'm over people being horrible, and you're not allowed to do anything about it, and they're not really held responsible, and that a payoff hopefully will be coming. I don't have faith that it will.
I don't think you two are the type of people that are like, I miss the mean rivals or whatever. But we know they exist, and so if you miss somebody being mean, here they are. Here's your mean character that they haven't done in well, they did do. I think what's his name in Bede.
Yeah, I mean, Bede's a
in,
jerk
in Sword and Shield.
Like,
yeah,
straight up is a jerk.
Arvin starts out a little bit of a jerk.
Yeah, Arvin starts out as a jerk, but.
Oh yeah, that's true. You know, even Gladion wasn't that mean or rude compared to Bede or Carmine. There's a point where I don't know if it was a coincidence. Do you guys know the Arthur meme where Arthur clenches his fist?
Uh-huh.
Carmen does it, and they zoom in on it. And I think somebody at Game Freak must have watched Arthur. But that was like, for me, that was like a little, like a funny but also cool moment of like showing like a deeper anger that
the emotions
Carmen
were
had.
really good. I will say the emotions shown on the characters, their faces throughout the whole thing, they had it was good expressions. It was good visual storytelling.
When Greg was like, I don't like when the game forces you to lie. I got to that part because I saw Greg tweet that before I knew what was going to happen because I was stuck at the bus stop for like 3 days. I did a lot of Me Too raids after the DLC came out. I was like, oh yeah, this does suck. But then I didn't know that Carmen was going to turn. So like, even at the end, I was like, okay, well, we caught Ogerpon, everything's okay, and he was more not okay, and then that said to be continued, and I was like, okay, like the lie that I was forced to tell, like I thought I didn't think we were gonna get to be continued. I thought like this lie. Why did I have to lie to them to have a payoff? And it was like, oh, there is no payoff yet, Like we are not done with this story at all, and that is why I liked it. I totally see why somebody would not like that, and if the story just ended there of like, you caught Ogerpon, everyone's happy now. But I get it. Like, he liked Ogerpon, you got to keep him. He was being very childish, and I think at one point he says, "I know I'm being really selfish, but it should be my Pokemon, not yours." And then he was even more angry after you beat him again, and then it said to be continued. I was like,
Is this the first time a side character has been frustrated that the main character gets the legendary?
I mean, in these games, yes. In Masters, no. Like, they literally just did this. They literally just did this. But also, I was like, take it, just take it. Like, seriously.
Ogerpon is 100% female.
I
Yes,
don't want this weird cape thing in a diaper. I don't.
You don't like Ogerpon?
She's great.
What? Holy cow! I went from not caring about Ogerpon at all until like she like danced into the festival and like walked around. And I was like, I love this thing. I was like, all you had to make her do was like dance, and I was like, I think she's awesome.
Immediately lovable.
I think she's such a cool Pokemon.
I like the mask terrestrialization effect. I think that's really cool. But I look at it and I'm like, take the cape off, get out of the weird diaper. Like, what is going on? You're an amorphous blob that I only care about the masks on.
I love Ogerpon. I think the twist of the Loyal 3 actually being bad was like
Twist.
it was like super surprising.
Yeah.
Twist.
If they had
But,
alternate
like-
forms that actually looked like the masks, and those had been the forms that we had seen leading up to this, if they had looked like good Pokemon instead of looked like evil Pokemon.
Here's like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, in retrospect, you go, oh, the 3 Pokemon that are mainly poison
Right.
typed are the evil ones. Like, oh, okay, I'm dumb. I should have realized that right away.
Also, I
And
feel
then-
like the whole like, oh, we can't tell everybody. I'm like, literally, if I walked in there and just said, hey, the ogre's actually a Pokemon, everybody would be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Sure. Like, that is not a difficult
reminded-
conversation to have in a world that has legendary Pokemon and Pokemon running around the castle. Like, oh, it's a Pokemon. Oh, cool.
It reminded
Awesome.
It reminded me of the episode of The Simpsons where Lisa discovers that Jebediah Springfield is actually like a bad pirate, but everyone's like celebrating Jebediah Day, and she wants to tell everyone, and then the one person is like, nah, they can't handle the truth, which is like, whatever. I don't know where that trope originally came from. It's like,
I mean, to
so
some
then
extent.
she ends up not telling them, and they all just celebrate Jebediah Day anyways, and it's like, it's not the, you know, he brings happiness even though he's a bad, whatever. It was like that's a weird episode of The Simpsons. I think though, like the other part of why I like the story is it felt like things made sense. So, like, here's a good example of that would be like, why did they suddenly become totem Pokemon? And they like explain it. Like, they ran to the old guy and they're like, did you see them? And they were like, yeah, they came and we gave them all this food. And they're like, you fed them? Like, they literally answered the question of why they were totem
Yeah.
Pokemon. And a bunch of people in my chat were like, why are they totem Pokemon? It was like, did you guys
Right.
not read? Like,
I mean, I will say they
all it took was like one line, and they
gave
did it. They did the one line.
I will admit, like I like the 3. I again like being resurrected through anger again. Like it was a really tropey storyline, and at that point I was sort of really over the whole thing.
Yeah, that was like the one thing they didn't kind of explain, but I thought it was probably obvious that like they rose from the grave because of the toxicity / anger of
Kieran.
Kiki.
Yeah. Which is also a whole different super problematic thing, but whatever. I was so over it at that point and realized like we're just doing this, and I just have to go through this as fast as I possibly can just to be out of it. So like I will say this: they gave actual reasons, they gave actual through lines that made sense. Like they wrote a story that is cohesive, which I cannot say about every Pokemon game.
Yes. It's a
That-
whole lot better than Sword
Let's
and
talk
Shield.
about X and Y.
Like they wrote
Why is there a very tall 3,000-year-old
wrote a
guy in
cohesive
jail all of a
story.
sudden?
that I'm not that excited to continue. Also, I was surprised that the Blueberry Academy is in Unova. I was like, hey,
Oh,
Unova
yeah,
confirmed.
we didn't talk about that.
It's a region that exists.
So for the last 2 years of this game coming out, people were like, Spain is right next to France and Kalos is right there. And even when you start the game, there's like an area that's connected. And not only do we not go to Kalos, the first DLC is set in Japan. They don't say where, if it's close to Sinnoh or Hoenn or whatever, right? We literally go to as far away as possible. And then the second DLC, they just straight up say, yep, it's connected to Unova.
Yep.
Neither of these places. I don't know what they're doing with Briar. Greg said, like, I would rather
I would
spend
have
the whole
rather
DLC
spent the whole
with Briar.
DLC doing research papers with Briar.
I don't fully understand her character. Like, obviously she's a professor. Obviously she's from Unova. She brought Carmine and
Kieran.
go to the Blueberry
Yeah.
Academy, but they're from
Yep.
Kitakami, so that all makes sense. Like that, I get that. So obviously they're students there, And then she is the chaperone who does a very bad job at chaperoning everyone. But like, and then she knows about the books and she knows about the lake.
It's not just knows about.
Right.
She is descendant of Heath, who wrote the books.
Who wrote the book.
Oh,
So
I
she's
missed that part.
descendant of Heath, who wrote the book. She's also curious, one, about terrestrialization being able to be moved through other places in the world, and the fact that it exists in Paldea, but it also exists here because of the lake and the crystals up top that seems to stabilize the phenomenon. She is investigating that and why that is a thing. And it is based out of the completed Violet book, of which she has, quote unquote, the original copy. Choose to believe her because she's cool.
Okay.
But she is definitely, she's supposed to be the descendant. She has got the completed book, and she's trying to understand how terrestrialization spread to various places, and that it seems to be able to stabilize the phenomenon for us to be able to use them in other areas.
Do we think she's a bad guy?
No,
Her eyes look like it, though.
I don't. I think she is along the lines of Kukui, sort of. I want to bring these things to other areas and expand out. But
No, Kukui was the real bad guy.
But
though.
also kind of tied to that is I don't really care how we get there. I think there is an element of the end will justify the means with her that we don't know. Again, I would have rather have spent my entire time getting to know her and her motivations and studying with her this entire thing. And I'm really hoping that I can just choose to be with her at the Blueberry Academy, and those two can fall off into the ocean and drown. I don't care about them.
I think it's more likely the two storylines are going to come together into one.
For the record, I don't think we're actually going into Unova.
No.
I think that like what is New York has like a couple islands. I would assume that the Blueberry Academy is just
Blueberry
like
Academy
one of those islands.
Staten Island that is enclosed
Yeah,
in
there
a
you go.
giant
Sure,
bubble
like
now.
it could be anything. It doesn't really matter. All of this geography is already
it's made up.
loose
It's
anyway.
an underwater giant floating boarding academy. It's there.
It's there. It's Atlantis.
Right. Isn't Galler like just technically upside down?
Technically,
England
yeah.
or something
I
like
mean,
that?
it's
Yeah.
weird.
Or like the Crown Tundra is also just like upside down Ireland or something like that. Or not Crown Tundra, Isle of Armor. And it doesn't matter. I just don't think we're like walking into Castelia City is what I'm saying.
No.
As much as I would like to walk into Castelia City.
I need them cones, baby. It's been so long.
I know. So I believe people were saying that Kitakami is about 25% the size of Paldea, which feels right.
Sure.
Like 1/4 of it. Maybe 26%, who knows. So if we're going to just assume that the biome is probably the same size, that would make sense. But I don't remember seeing a bunch of big buildings or whatever in the biome. So I would guess that the academy, or there is a city above the biome or below that you take an elevator into, because the second DLC seems very, very battle focused. They talk about how the Blueberry Academy is this great battling league. There is an actual Elite Four. This is not like they said this. There's an Elite Four in the second one. I'm assuming there's going to be some battle tree or battle tower, since that was cut, or not cut, but that doesn't exist. And gosh, I can't remember a Pokemon game without a tower of battling, whatever they decide to call it, So I'm assuming that's going to come back. Whether that's more advanced, like a Battle Frontier or something, who knows? But I'm assuming there will be something where multiple battles exist. And this seems very flipped from Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, where they decided to do the battling stuff up front. Also, fun fact, apparently a lot of people didn't know this. There is a whole battle section in the dojo for Isle of Armor, where there are 18 very unique, very specific battles of every type against Mustard And they can be pretty tough. I mean, it kind of depends on RNG because his Pokemon do change. But you're like forced to be like, you bring 3 bugs, and then Mustard brings whatever he wants. And sometimes he brings 3 fire Pokemon against your 3 bugs, and that's a losing battle. And you just got to go in again and hope that. So if you do all of those battles, you get like a exclusive. It's not that great. You just get a shirt that you can't get anywhere else. But that was like a lot of content. Like obviously, if you don't like battling, that's not for you. But the biggest complaint of this DLC is it's too short, which is kind of the worst complaint you can have, because if it was bad, you wouldn't care. You're like, oh, it's bad. I who cares if it's short? I'm done. I'm already done with it. Like I only played an hour. I didn't like it. I'm moving on. I think that's my main complaint is I liked it so much. I wanted to do more, and there's not a lot. I mean, there is I put like 15 hours into it. Like I played it a lot this weekend, and I mean I played more than 15 hours, but some of that was Mewtwo, some of that was old stuff. But completed the Pokedex, did one of the 2 side quests, did the main story, did a bunch of raids. I did 2 new outbreaks. I got a bunch of marks on my Pokemon with the new mark. Like I feel like I got my money's worth. I can easily see somebody just doing the main story, using their Pokemon Home to connect, and been like, I'm kind of done. And I totally get that. But I think it's a little too short. I think if there was one other thing, but I don't know what that would be. That isn't battling, because they're saving all the battling for the second one.
So there are hidden, like you have to like there's the ogre clan to deal with. Like there are little.
I didn't finish that.
There are little
I didn't
side things.
that.
There's the greatest golden couple in the world that you have to deal with. There's the one side mission to get the Pokemon. Like there are little things. But again, I think they are leaning heavily on the exploration to carry the bulk of what you want to do here. And if you don't like doing that, there's not a lot to do. So, I mean, I have to agree with you. Like if you don't like Scarlet and Violet, this is not making
Yeah,
this is not
this is
making
more
you like
Scarlet
this
and Violet.
game. Because it did. I was really hoping it would maybe somehow turn a corner for me, and it just doesn't. It's like you gave me an offensive story that's short, blissfully short, that I could get out of it fast. You have a weird mini game that I guess you can play with multiple people for stuff.
Which is cool.
There's another $1 million prize for reasons.
That is the best. I guess we said spoilers off limit. There's a $1 million outfit. It is the best outfit in this entire series. It looks good. It feels like you can accessorize it a little bit better. It is not all purple. It is not all orange. It actually looks good in the lighting. It's the best outfit they've done so far. That's still, what would have changed? Actual outfits. Like I feel like people, like I think of like I think I think of I think I said this like 2 weeks ago that like I encourage Pokemon fans to play other games. I think we were talking about raids for that instance of like how the intent for raids are they're supposed to be multiplayer. Can you do this stuff single player? Sure, but the intent is you're supposed to be playing with other people. And this is, other games do this. Other games have, like, the intent here is multiplayer, the intent here is single player. And sometimes I feel like Pokemon fans get stuck in, like, I'm not used to this. That's okay. And so, like, I do think about, I didn't like Scarlet and Violet. I wish I'd liked it. What could they do to get me to come back? And my review that I posted that is very short is, hey, if you didn't like Scarlet and Violet, this DLC is not going to convince you. And then I think like, are there games out there where the DLC did convince/change and bring people back. And I do think there are I think there's a handful of that, but I do think that is incredibly rare, where a DLC is so good that it brings people back. But I think at the core, that's what people, the developers want, right? They know that people bought their game and they want to make a good product to bring people back to it. I think No Man's Sky is a weird example because they just kept updating it. They didn't actually force anyone to pay, but they did it, right? They launched with a very, very bad game. It sold incredibly well. I bought 2 copies because I'm dumb, and I sold both of them before they fixed it. But anytime you talk to somebody with No Man's Sky, I guarantee you the first thing they say is, "Oh, it's so much better now." Like they did do the work to bring people back. I think the work that that Game Freak could have done is fix the frame rate, address a lot of the bugs, and to their credit, they did address some the outbreaks, the boxes, the other thing we mentioned that I can't remember. They did address some of the bugs, but I think frame rate, graphics, but that's like a huge stretch. But that's not there yet. So like, if one of your complaints is like the game runs like garbage, DLC didn't change that, right? Like, if you're not super interested in catching Pokemon, DLC is not for you. If you're not really heavy on the story, DLC is not for you. If you only care about the new Pokemon, there's not a lot.
No, there are only a few.
Like, the minigame is cool. The new raids are fun, but again, you have to like raids, and some people just don't like raids. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I totally get why people don't like raids. Like the Moshi that they introduced, I actually don't love. I don't like when Game Freak introduces new items that are just the same item.
Yeah.
I could not figure out why these were. I still cannot figure out why they're being added. Like, what are you doing differently?
The only one that makes sense is the one that resets your EVs. That one makes complete sense. It's a brand new item. It's great. But like, those that don't know, Moshi gives you the Moshi that you earn from Ogre Ousting. Is that what it's called? Ogre Ousting. Gives you 10 EVs per Moshi. So 10 HP, 10 attack, whatever color is what. This already exists. They're just vitamins.
Yeah.
And the vitamins give you 10. Now, there's a different thing that are called feathers, and feathers give you 1. So this is helpful if you have something that's like 152. That is 15 vitamins and then 2 feathers. And all of this stuff needs to be divisible by 4. That's why 170 doesn't work. 160 does, 180 does, 170 does not. That's why you need the feathers to tweak it. This is all just for competitive people. So, like, why is Moshi 10? Why would it not be, like, even if it was 4, that would be like, okay, I see what you're doing. Or if it was 20, okay, I could see what you're doing. But, like, the argument against me was like, well, I have to buy vitamins. I don't have to buy this.
Yeah, I mean,
like, yeah, I guess, but you don't have to.
That's the one argument for them. But at that point, just.
But there's only one minigame.
But have them just be vitamins. Like, adding another item.
Right, yeah. Just have them reward you vitamins then.
Like, having them, when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, what do these do? I'm like, oh, these are just free vitamins. But they made them a different item, which now clogs up my screen more for no good reason.
It's so confusing.
For no good reason.
It's like, at this point, get rid of rare candy. We don't need it anymore. Like, you have, like, why would, like, yeah, somebody's gonna be like, well, experience candy is only like X amount of experience. It's like, yeah, I know, I get it, but also just get rid of rare candy. It's not that deep. Like, the fact that we have like Sea Incense and Mystic Water and Water Plate, they all do the same thing. It's all just 20% water thing.
The incenses are supposed to be useful in breeding, but again.
Sure, yeah. Sure.
Like, we don't need an item that does that either. We could just have baby Pokemon appear without having to jump through 14 loops in different ways to make it up. Like, come on.
You could maybe argue in like a competitive sense where you're limited one item per. You could be like, well, I need Wave Incense on them, and then I need Mystic Water on them, and if they were the same item, I could only like. I guess. But there are so many other items to use. Like,
I mean, I don't think in the history of competitive there has been a big Mystic Water.
I don't think there's ever been a team that needed both items.
I don't think that's a thing. Like,
that could be a thing one day. I just don't love let's add more items that do the same thing.
I don't like it either.
I don't see how that benefits anyone in the player base. Like, if anything, I think of the average Pokemon player being like, there's so much stuff I don't know what it does. There more quality of life changes. You can sort the TM stuff by learnable only for your Pokemon. You do not need to pay the $40 for that. That's great. See, I'm talking about all these like quality of life changes, but they're just not enough, I don't think, to bring somebody back. And I hope that the second DLC is that. I hope that like the second DLC, like if the second DLC is as short as this, will I be happy personally? Yeah, I like Pokemon, and I do like Scarlet and Violet. Minus all the issues. I do like the games. I don't think they're the best Pokemon games, but they're fun. But I don't think that would be satisfactory. Like, this second DLC almost has to be double this DLC to make it feel valuable. This DLC is just a little shallow.
Yeah. It is.
I don't expect any more from the next one.
I don't either.
I expect them to finish up Scarlet and Violet in a way that I'm probably going to be happy with. But even going to what you said, Hannah, which made me more excited for the second part, because I didn't put in correlation that the lake was the Terra Lake.
And we know,
how can they wrap up this whole story in like another 3 hours?
We do know that
the story took me 6 hours, but
yeah, I mean, we do know that after the main sort of Elite Four events of Blueberry Academy, they do say we go back to Area Zero to continue the story. So the hope is that it's a slightly longer storyline so that they can encompass both easily. I'm at this point hoping that the Carmen and Kieran storyline's 30 minutes and they both get crushed by some crane, and then we all move on happy with our lives. And
there would be cranes, and but they're always building
they're
stuff
always
out there.
Building something. That is
a Conkeldurr just falls out of the sky.
And then we can get on to things that are interesting. We do know that they are going to do an entire section that is exploring with Briar and the Area Zero stuff. So I have hope that at least they're going to do some justice to that. I have less hope because they really didn't do a lot of explanation at the end of Legends Arceus that was cohesive and coherent.
Legends Arceus did some stuff better in general as well, though. These were different teams.
Yeah.
I'm liking the way they're doing story in Scarlet and Violet overall.
Yeah, I agree with that, I think. Legends kind of fell apart.
Yeah,
at the
Legends
end.
falls real apart at the end. And Pokemon has a history of falling apart at the end in just a ton of games. I am very...
Unless you're X and Y, you fall apart right at the beginning.
I am concerned that they won't. I am hopeful that they will.
There's a through line. The fact that they brought it up in this first DLC gives me so much more hope.
Yeah, hope is easily crushed by the Pokemon company.
I still think the second DLC comes out in November, which is very soon. And the reason I think that is because I think it's always been targeted towards November. I think that every company, whether they're video game or not, wants their product to come out before Black Friday. And I am sure that they have already manufactured a bunch of discs or a bunch of cartridges and a bunch of boxes like they did for the Sword and Shield final release, which was, here are both DLCs. on
Yep.
the cartridge
Oh, absolutely.
for $80. And we're going to put it in Target, and that's going to sell very well because whether or not there's a reason why Fortnite and Apex Legends are on the shelf at Target. It's not because they need to be. They're free games. Why are they on the shelf? Because like being on a shelf is incredibly important in retail. And so you spend the $20, you get the free game, but really all you're doing is you're getting a $20 gift card. Grandma doesn't know how to give you a gift card for Christmas. She knows how to walk into Walmart and buy something on a shelf that you asked for.
Well, also,
and she's going to do that.
People like giving physical things as gifts, right? Like, here's an email printout of a digital code. Does not make a person's heart sing.
If it's wrapped in like 5 boxes, it can.
Oh God! That
are you one of those people, Hannah? Are you one of those people?
That whole process of like it's in the last box. At that point, I'm like, you know what? The entire thing's going in the trash. I don't care.
No.
Why would you do this to a
It's
person?
fun.
Greg's anger for the character storyline in Scarlet and Violet is my anger when I have to open more than one box for a gift.
My family definitely does it. Definitely a thing.
Okay,
I
the one
still
thing that makes
think-
me, I will say this one story because this still makes me laugh to this day, is one Christmas there is a package that appeared under the Christmas tree that was for my mother, and the person that said, "To Joyce from the one that loves you most." All of us, not my mom, were trying to figure out who that was. She gave it to herself.
Oh, that's pretty clever.
She's like, I
Dang,
love myself.
you didn't tell me your
the
mom
most.
was cool.
I'm like, fair, Mom. Absolutely fair. You drove us crazy for an entire month trying to figure out who this person was because when it wasn't my dad, that was a scandal.
Dang, your mom's
Oh,
tight.
she's crafty.
I still think I still think it's going to come out in November.
I think it's probably going to come up before Thanksgiving to get
the week before
to
Thanksgiving.
get the Black Friday stuff hit.
Because again, maybe some of you listening aren't parents or don't have kids, but parents want to go out once during the holiday season. They want to get all their shopping done. They don't want to think about it again. And let me tell you, if it's a kid wanting a Pokemon game, the parents have known this kid wants the Pokemon game since December 26th. They have known for the last year what the kid wants for Christmas. They want to go out once. They want to buy everything well before Christmas to get it. So I think there is. I think they're aiming for November. I have no proof of that. If I'm wrong, cool. I'll put on my LinkedIn that I was wrong. That's fine. But that doesn't mean I don't think the first DLC was delayed. Like, I still do think that should have been like a June, July release. I wonder if things were cut in Kitakami to, like, okay, we got the storyline done. We got everything we wanted to accomplish. Put it out. Let's focus on hopefully the bigger DLC to complete the package. There are things in Kitakami that, like, I feel like something should be here. Like, this shouldn't be a completely empty field. Why are there, like, this spot looks like a Pokemon should spawn in, like a Regigigas or a Rayquaza, like, whatever. Why does this exist? Why are there so many, like, little Zelda, like, haha, you found me? Like, why are there so many of these in Kitakami that don't do anything? So, I don't know if things were cut. It does seem a little empty, especially compared to Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor. This is bottom, like, of things to do. Mm-hmm. And then I would say Isle of Armor would be next, and then I would say Crown Tundra would be up there. And for a game that needed more time because they delayed it, why is there less things to do? And if that time was spent fixing boxes, fixing the raids, that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. Like, people are always like, do you want to see a third DLC? No, I want to see a fixed game that that I can continue playing for 2 more years. Like, I don't need a third DLC with the same problems that I'm going to, like, come on the show and be like, yep, frame rate's still not cool. We're going to Castelia, third DLC. Good thing everyone in the town's running at 4 frames a second. Like, I don't want that.
I don't need more robotic
Like, to all
fans.
the people that are like, man, when are we going back to Kalos? Why do you want that? Like, why do you want Kalos at 14 frames a second? Don't you want, like, a good running version of Kalos? Don't you finally want to go back to Kalos when things are, like, 100% working, fixed, they have a bunch of time? Like, if I have to eat my words and, like, there is a third DLC and we do finally go to Kalos, that doesn't sound great in this current state.
No. It's hard because I think one of the more frustrating things is we are well into the life cycle of this game, and it is hard to argue against people at this point that talk about it and Game Freak in a very negative way and point to this game as proof. And I have to be like, yeah, the frame rate is terrible. No, they haven't fixed it. No, they haven't fixed these things. You are valid in those specific criticisms, not in the criticism as a whole, but that is not an internet viable conversation to have, because that level of nuance can't exist in the written short exchanges that people have on the internet. And it is like, I would love to have things brought up into, like, I like remakes when they bring them into a modern game. Having gone back and played Yellow and being like, this game is virtually unplayable because all of the life improvements are gone, and I'm moving at 2 frames a second, slowly trudging through this town. When they bring them into a new style and they bring them into a new Switch and it runs better and all the life improvements are there and you can re-experience a game with all of the improvements, that is very warming and comforting to me, right? Like when they digitally remaster an album that you know a million times and is like listening to it fresh for the first time because you hear things again. Those are all wonderful, warming experiences. And that is what I want from remakes. Like, it's part of the reason why Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were so disappointing, because they just didn't really get us there. It did not feel like it was a fresh new take and upgrade to this. It just felt like this is a game with slightly better graphics, but just terrible gameplay.
Faithful remake.
It was a faithful remake. So, like, I understand the desire to see games that are your favorites brought into a modern era with modern things. Not where we're at with Scarlet and Violet. No, I do not. This isn't the time to do that, and this isn't the engine to do it, and it's not fixed.
I think the other interesting thing is, like, when, like, the frame rate is like really bad. We've said it like every week for the last 8 months, but like it's almost not surprising. And I feel like the thing I hear is, like, Pokemon games got real bad after Gen 5, which is I always think is funny, because it has, let's not rewrite history of how much Gen 5 was hated. It is the most hated series in the entire franchise. Sales numbers prove this. Twitter was not a real thing when Gen 5 came out. Like, but I was there. Greg was there. I'm not sure if Hannah remembered, but I was podcasting. When Gen 5 came out, it was by far the most hated Pokemon game ever. That being said, I think somebody commented, like, man, old Pokemon games didn't have these issues. Oh. And I want to just remind everyone. I just want to remind everyone that before this golden era, which some people dub as Gen 5 and before, there was this game called Diamond and Pearl. And it ran so miserable that when you saved your game, it said the words saving a lot of data, and it would take like a full minute. And Gen 3 and Gen 5 saved in mere seconds. Platinum also saved in seconds. When you watch somebody go on Twitch or go on YouTube, watch somebody play a non-sped up version of Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or original Diamond and Pearl, and watch those HP bars. Watch them. Because I guarantee you, probably most of those people playing it are playing some sort of emulator, which I don't emulate anything, just Nintendo. I know sometimes you listen, not me. They're all sped up. They're all sped up because those games ran so slow and sluggish. They ran terrible.
Hey.
So, like, again, this is not defending Game Freak. Like, go back to Gen 1. You can break that game so fast, so instantly. Missing No, very famous. Everyone loved it. Duplicate your Master Ball a million times. Like every single Pokemon game, I could sit here on the show and nitpick to death.
There was
they all have issues.
A berry glitch in Ruby and Sapphire that they had to put out a different game, or you had to go to a mall tour to get
or you had to mail them your game
to get a physical patch to fix
the
game. Like, no game is bug free, right? Like, there is not a game that, like, there's no game is bug free. Nothing is bug free. Something always happens. This is an issue of what our vision and expectations are, and what the expectations of games that exist in this time period. There's a stark mismatch of what other things are able to do and what this one is able to do. And we can talk about that, what our expectations are based off of equipment, other games, a lot of other things, and what we're getting in this game. But to say, like, oh, back in the day they never had... No, look, seriously, watch a health bar in half of those older games that takes you 17 hours to get to 0 and a one-hit KO, where you're like, I'm literally aging to death while this Edina
for
dies.
For the record, I want the frame rate fixed.
Oh, absolutely.
For the record, I don't... Like, my expectations are a game that sells 25 million copies should have an acceptable frame rate. Like, those are my expectations. I think those are a lot of the people's expectations. I'm just saying, like, this is not new. Also, to the people that are like, I can't believe they're selling us back 100 Pokemon for $40. Again, not new. They did this in Gen 3. You wanted... First off, boom, cut. You can't have any Gen 2 or 1 Pokemon. You want a reminder to people that their breeding was in Gen 3. Here's a reminder. Ruby and Sapphire, you could breed all the you want Illumise and Volbeat, you could breed them. Don't know why you would be doing that, but that's my example. Illumise, Volbeat, you want to put them 2 in the daycare and breed them. Do you know what Pokemon wasn't in Gen 3? I'm talking about breeding. Ditto. If you wanted Ditto in Ruby and Sapphire, you had to buy another game, either Fire Red Leaf Green or Emerald, and then you had to get a $10 link cable or have a friend and move that Ditto over. You wanted other Pokemon missing? Well, there were 2 games that you could buy on a whole different console called Colosseum and Gale of Darkness. This is not the first, and again, I'm not like defending this, but this is not the first time the Pokemon Company has taken Pokemon away from us and then have put it into something that you need to re-buy again. This is their entire strategy for 27 years. So I'm only talking to the people who are like, they never did this in the past. They did. You are just using a bad faith argument right now. They have been doing this. Like, they're not getting rid of version exclusives. They're not getting rid of trade exclusives. They're not getting rid of the fact that, like, in the future, they'll have this Pokemon over this Pokemon. Do you know why? That has been their entire business structure for almost 30 years now. They're not, and it works. Unfortunately, it works very well. Sword and Shield has sold a lot of copies. This game has sold a lot of copies. It's not changing. I'm still surprised Legends Arceus was 1 game. Still a huge shocker, honestly. If anything, that might have been the most surprising thing this company has done in 25 years, is put out 1 copy of Legends Arceus.
Yeah, that still is wild.
So, I will say, if you did not buy the DLC, and the things we said earlier convinced you to go back, fixed boxes, fixed outbreaks, fixed Area 0 Pokemon, you do not need to buy the DLC to bring in Furret or your Spinnerack or your other old Pokemon into the game. You don't need to buy the DLC. You also don't need to buy the DLC to participate in those raids. So if somebody is hosting a Cramorant raid, you can join it. You don't need the DLC to do that. So again, to all the people saying like these Pokemon are behind a paywall, just want to remind you that these games are not free. You do have to spend, at this point, $60 to get into Scarlet and Violet. I guess $60 buys you 400 Pokemon. But as for the DLC Pokemon, they're not... sure, you have to spend $40 to experience that new content, but if you want Duskull or Dusclops, you can trade them in from Pokemon Home. You can trade them to other people. You can jump into raids. You do not need to spend the money to get those Pokemon back. Also, Cramorant, when he follows you, he makes little tippy-tappies with his feet, and he's by far still the best Pokemon in the entire world. And that in itself has made the DLC $40 worth it to Scarlet players. It is not worth it to Violet players because Cramorant is a version exclusive for some reason.
I told you at the start of this 8 months ago, I play Violet, you play Scarlet, and you
I messed
denied
up.
me that.
Scarlet's been the better version the entire time.
I
100%
told you.
That is the real issue with
I told
this.
you, and once again, you didn't listen to me.
I'm so mad that I gotta play through Scarlet now. It's fine. I'm like, just gotta beat the Elite Four.
Still no roses, so this game can suck eggs.
Okay, a couple like just minor speculation things. I think number one is Dipplin works with Eviolite. Take that for what it's worth. If you don't know what Eviolite does, it doubles your defenses if you are not a fully evolved Pokemon. And this has been tested.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's a bug, but Dipplin does work with Eviolite. I think this is probably intentional. Like, they want us to know that Dipplin's going to evolve. Somebody was saying that Dipplin or Applin or something, there's like 2 worms inside it.
Yeah, there are 2 in Dipplin.
There are 2 worms in Dipplin.
In
Yeah.
Dipplin.
Yes.
But not
No.
Applin.
Applin's 1 worm, but Dipplin is 2.
So that would make sense. Then there would be 2 well, the worm is the dragon. That's the gimmick.
Yeah.
So apparently Dipplin is supposed to evolve, I guess. The other speculation is there's actually somebody in charge of the Loyal 3.
Yep.
And if you look at that weird cutscene thing they did, which, is that the first time they've did like a cutscene to tell a story? I mean, besides the like beginning of Paldea, they kind of did that. They didn't have that in Crown Tundra or Isle of Armor, did they?
I mean, depends on
like-
what you're considering.
Well, it's not really good. It's like a PowerPoint
Yeah,
presentation.
I mean, they've done that before.
Yeah, they've done it
Okay,
in
okay.
X and Y.
They did an X and Y. They did it.
Oh yeah, they did.
So, like,
There's not even a story there, and they did.
yeah.
it.
Like, that's not uncommon.
But there is at least
So
one
apparent-
NPC that talks about it maybe being their trainer. The figure that's on the placards.
The figure on the
There's a
placards.
human.
Yeah.
With the Loyal 3.
Oh,
Because there's a human with Ogerpon and there's a human with the Loyal 3.
I'd have to relook.
Or,
So apparently in the PowerPoint presentation, there's a 4th thing with next to the Loyal 3, and then people are the crypto lady. We didn't talk about her.
we didn't talk about the crypto lady.
So there's one shop in Kittick. Well, there's technically 2 shops. The shop by Millennial Nurse Joy.
Yeah.
She tells you she doesn't accept LP, but if you keep bothering her about it, not only does she bring up that she doesn't trust cryptocurrencies,
Yeah.
she eventually buys in and then lets you use LP. You just have to
You
keep
just have to keep
bothering
bugging
her about it.
But yeah, no,
And
the
her-
minute she
and her-
said I don't trust cryptocurrency, I said, same, sister, which I have never used LP in this entire game.
There's a lot of little things about this DLC, like
Also,
her, the Hoot Hoot
I
Cave,
find the
that
murder
like really
shack
excel
that
it for me.
sells syrup incredibly off-putting.
But anyways, so people are speculating that there's, in front of her booth, there's like a pink doll. And they think that is the Loyal 3's leader. And there's like a screenshot of that pink doll, and they kind of lines up with the PowerPoint that you can only barely see the fourth thing. So I have no clue. Take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, that's a big grain of salt.
Also, the Twitter account that's always wrong, but then sometimes right, also tweeted that one of Ogerpon's masks was supposed to be Ghost. It wasn't. They were wrong. I should make a Twitter account documenting how many times they're wrong, because it's way more than they're right. People only remember them being right.
Confirmation bias.
Anyways, take that with a grain of salt. There is a really weird pink thing in front of her booth. If anything, it does stand out. Like, why is this here? Another interesting thing about her booth is if you zoom in, like, there are Pikachu and Eevee, like, crackers or chips. Those are, like, real things that you can buy in Japan. So that's kind of cool that you can see that they're, like, real things. Also, if you're catching the Loyal 3, I don't know if this works or not, but the only booth that sells ramen in the festival gives you Catch Power Poison 2. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't know if Catch Power with the Loyal 3... I mean, they're all poison. I used it. I caught all of them under 5 minutes. So, I don't know. Confirmation bias there.
So over catch rates. Can we just be done? Can we just...
That's why I'm telling you to get the Catch Power... Catch Power 2.
Can we just...
See, Greg didn't use it, and they're mad. I did use it.
I'm not mad.
It went really well.
I didn't use it, and it took me 5 minutes for each. But also, if I have it at 1 hit point and paralyzed, this whole catch rate thing is just dumb. It is dumb at this point. Just end it. Just end it. Like, it is so refreshing in raids to have a 1-hit catch. Like, I'm going to get it. That does not diminish my experience in any way. Just let me catch these things in a ball that I want. It has been nearly 30 years of catch rates. End it. Be done. Let's just be done. They don't serve any purpose anymore. It's never been a fun mechanic. It's not ever going to be a fun mechanic.
It would be a fun mechanic in my eyes if there was more than one way to catch. Sleeping and false swiping everything is not... This is the argument we had with Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, where people were like, I miss battling Pokemon to catch them. I was like, why?
Yeah.
You're just gonna spore them and then false swipe them and then do the same thing I'm doing right now, which is just huck Pokeballs until it catches. Caught.
It's not an exciting thing anymore.
Well, and if you want some sort of strategy, like maybe like 1 out of 400 Pokemon, you're bringing a Pokemon with Damp, and maybe like 3 out of 400 Pokemon, you're bringing a Pokemon with Soak. So you can do the same thing, which is spore and false swipe. Like, if anything in Let's Go Pikachu, we cut out half of that battle anime. Like, we saved some time there. If there were moves that were like, this Pokemon can only learn this move, and this move makes it where it's easier to catch grass Pokemon, that would be more interesting, because then I would like think about what Pokemon I would be bringing to catch. I think SOS was maybe the closest we got to that of like the catch stuff. Other thing that we didn't mention that was new was the selfie stick. They did fix the camera. So they actually did a couple fixes for the camera. Number one is you don't have to hide the overlay to take a picture. If you just take a picture, the overlay won't be included in the photo, which is great. The other thing is you can tell Pokemon to stand still.
Yep.
Which is great. Both of those do not require the $40 DLC. Man, if you're listening to this podcast and you're watching on YouTube, now's your time to comment your favorite thing that you liked in the DLC.
Why do we need a selfie stick and a phone that flies?
We cannot answer that question. This podcast is too long. But if you did spend the $40, you get the selfie stick, which is not the free thing. But you can take better photos. Like, the photos are genuinely more interesting and better. And the other thing is this DLC adds a lot of emotes.
Oh, a lot of emotes.
And some of the emotes are like behind like little, very, very little like side things, like show me a Pokemon or like, but they're like cool. Like, I didn't think they were going to do that, but there are new emotes, which is DLC, $40 for new emotes, $40 for selfie stick.
Taking
they're
pictures
cool.
is actually more fun now. They succeeded at that.
Way more fun.
I still won't do it.
Way
One time
more
that I
fun.
had to, I was like, okay, cool.
My very last thing, and then I'm done talking, we can end the show, is I still think trainers in an open world needs to be addressed. And I don't know how that has to be addressed. It works really well in a linear game. Works super well in a linear game. Yeah, like I could sit here and I can overlevel in Viridian Forest, and then I can destroy everything, and then eventually it'll catch up with me. I get it. There are so many trainers scattered around Kitakami, and there are two types. There are the little kids who send out Geodude. Also, okay, with the exception of the Geodude kid who uses self-destruct on both his Geodudes, that kid's tight. I love that kid. He's awesome.
Got a strategy.
But like somebody said like, man, I wish they were level 100. And I was like, what would be the difference between a level 70 Surskit and a level 100 Surskit be? Nothing. Like they're all using like Surskit, Geodude, Sentret, Spinarak. They're using the Pokemon there. Yeah. None of them are challenging. Now you could. The weird thing about both like all three DLCs are you've already played the game for 6+ months, and so therefore you probably have a very powerful team because you beat the champion. You continued playing. You probably have a handful of level 100 Pokemon. You could be like, well, I'm going to box those Pokemon. I'm going to catch what's here, and then I'm going to battle. Catching a level 67 Sentret, leveling it up once to Furret, and then battling a level 70 Surskit is not interesting.
No. Also, it's so...
And putting them...
It's so weird to have, like, here's a Bellsprout that's leveled 950. I'm like, what is happening in this region?
Like it's cool that the Pokemon are high levels, but I would love to sit down and be like, well, how do you want people to play? If you want people to catch the Pokemon here and then use that, then do something. Like, do like a storyline thing. Like, your box is locked until you get to this part of the game. Like,
here's the thing.
People wouldn't like that.
We're going to a new region, and your Pokemon have to be quarantined until it's proven that they're not bringing foreign diseases, and you have to catch only locals.
Okay, but even that, this isn't even a DLC problem, but, like, even the trainers in Paldea are kind of pointless to battle. Like, none of them are particularly... they don't really say anything well. They don't really have any unique Pokemon. They don't really give you that much money or that much experience. So, like, there is an exception with, like, the Ogre Clan. The Ogre Clan, they have... I think they all have, like, 4 or 5 Pokemon. They all have, like, a theme. I think there's 8 maybe
there's
Ogre
7.
Clan members. I've only battled, like, 3 or 4. And even... So I was walking around with level 100 Pokemon that I was just getting ribbons on. I was like, here's my Glastrier from VGC that already had all 5 ribbons. Let me get some more ribbons. Here's my Mighty Mew that has like 5 ribbons. Let me get more ribbons on it. Here's my Antique Sinistea that I caught. Let me get the ribbons on that. So none of these Pokemon are... Like, I literally just transferred them in, had the default movesets, which are all bad when you transfer it in. I think Glastrier knew, like, 4 normal-type moves and literally nothing else, and it's an ice Pokemon. Like, it has... And, like... I'm just crushing Bellsprouts, and I'm just, like, destroying trainers with Sentret. And I'm thinking, like, well, maybe I should box these Pokemon, but, like... I don't want to catch a Bellsprout or a Sentret and then level it up and use those. That doesn't sound fun either. And then when I was battling the Ogre Clan, I was like, oh, cool, they have, like, held items. Seems like they maybe are EV trained. They definitely have a strategy. But also, like, I'm going to chilling name my way to victory here, and that's cool. I don't know how they fix... I think they fix that by, like, forcing you to be the same level. So, like, battle tower, right? Or, like, Mustard. I think the Mustard battles I mentioned earlier were the same. Like, I think almost if they want something like that, just say that they're 80. If you're 82 or 100, you go up down to 80. Like, I don't think every battle needs to be that. Like, it's very clear that there are some filler battles. That's fine. Like, you could go in here with, like, a, you know, if you didn't beat the game, those trainers make sense because those Pokemon would be a way lower level, and you can experience that. I totally get that. But then have the opposite. Like, these trainers are here for, you know, somebody who just wants to experience the DLC. They're just here for filler. But these ogre people, that sounds offensive. The ogre clan.
The ogre clan.
There was clearly thought put into their teams. But, like, how am I supposed to know what level they are? And, like, my teams are already level 100 because I played through the game. So do you want me to catch different Pokemon and then get them to 80? And then it seems very... It seems like I have to do so much work as a player.
Yeah.
To be like, I'm doing it right. There's no right way if you want to crush them with 100.
Of raid and candy, wild trainers,
which is awesome,
just don't make sense anymore. When it was the best way to level Pokemon, like you wanted to find, and like Verse Seeker was the thing because I need to level Pokemon and I have to do that grind. That grind doesn't exist anymore. So the way I see them fixing trainers is that trainers out in the world need to have some sort of story to them that's giving you a lore bit of interest, something that you are learning from them that makes interacting with them worthwhile. That's not just, I like shorts, and now I'm going to battle you. Like,
They
cool.
need to be side quests more than just battles.
There needs to now be some bigger purpose for them being there other than filling empty space, which is honestly what it feels like. Like, I'm in a barren patch, and there's a person that
there's one guy
I'm going to give
here.
a wide berth because I do not want to waste my time in a level 60 battle when I have all 100s. I don't care. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, again, this DLC is not battle heavy. And I just think that, like, we're in this weird open world Pokemon now, and the things that were working in the past are not working here, and I don't know how they fix it. I think, you know, I think the battles I had the most fun with were the 3 Titan battles, and it was because even though I was level 100, they had so much health that they could still set up and do something. And I thought that was more interesting. Are they quote unquote cheating like the cars in Paldea? Yeah, sure, but like it's still fun. Like knocking out the Monkey Dory was significantly more fun than crushing 12 trainers with Surskit. Like I was like, oh, I kind of wish my moveset was better here from this Glastrier because Double Edge ain't working out too well. But, like, they can do... And, like, the interesting thing about the Titan stuff is I actually don't know what level they were. I'm assuming, like, the Monkey Dory was level, like, 70.
Yeah,
or something.
I mean...
Because when you catch them, they're 70. But, like, the Titan battle never shows you the level. And which is fine. Like, and I almost feel like that's how battles should be. Except, again, I think you're okay with having filler battles for people who just started the game, want to go to the DLC right away. The Pokemon are lower level. I get that. But then the higher end battles of the ogre people still feel off. They feel challenging enough, but they still feel like you're asking me to do work to change my team to be on their level when you can, I don't know.
When I can over level and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and, you know, the argument is like, well, that's your choice for over leveling. Right. I totally get that. But, like...
The thing is the one thing I will knock about both DLCs is when they make the DLC, the first one, capable if you start the game fresh and you're going there at level 15, when they are trying to straddle that we don't know when you're going to come here, the DLC suffers a little bit because it feels really weird when you're high level to be running into these basic Pokemon at these wild levels. But it also...
Bellsprout at level 80.
It also feels really weird to leave your main storyline to do a whole side quest island to come back to your main storyline. It feels weird in Sword and Shield, and I can guarantee it will feel weird to do it here. And I don't know how they fix that disconnect to make it like they clearly want to make it accessible for people who are getting the complete game new, complete heavily in quotes, like it's a finished game and they added DLC. Like, understand that I'm saying all parts that they've put out as complete. So I think those are just design decisions that I think the Pokemon Company needs to really ruminate on and figure out what a better play experience is given those limitations. And this isn't it for me right now. It's fine. It feels off every time. Like, I just replayed all of Sword and it felt off when I went to Isle of Armor at level 15 because I couldn't get everywhere. Also because I didn't have a bike that can go on water.
You didn't have to go the bike.
So it felt really weird to be there, to be like, I'm gated off, but also I'm here and I can do like, it felt weird. And this also feels weird. And it feels weird to go there after when they're all like, here's a Geodude that's level 5,000 and it only knows Explode. Or like all the Coughings that are level 60 that all know self-destruct moves. And it's like, how is this fun? This is weird.
They also know Memento.
The best timing is probably right after you beat the main game, before you've done a whole ton of raids, before you've leveled up everything to level 100. That's when this DLC fits in the best. But the problem is it came out months after.
Yeah.
Again, I think there's a deeper conversation to have where people are like, I wish the gym leaders level scaled. And I don't agree with that. And I could spend an hour of why I don't agree with that. But because you've beaten the game and you've done all of these raids, I'm thinking of a person that's coming back and they're doing Mewtwo and they're doing Delphox and they're doing Scorbunny, Cinderace, and they're playing every day. And then to go into the DLC 6 months, 8 months later, and then the best trainers are level 80, they're asking you to give up your team. Not asking, but maybe insinuating that you give up your team to go kind of down to their level to make it challenging, which you can do.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people
at least,
that like, this is my new Kitakami team.
But at least with the first part, you're not level 100 right away. You're working and you're building that. So like if you go to Iono first and she crushes you, you're like, I got to come back later. If you accidentally missed the bug type gym leader and you go over there, you're like, I did the work here and I crushed them because I missed them. And that's like fine. That happens in like Fallout and Elden Ring and all that stuff of like, oh, this area is like way lower. I missed it. I crush everything here. But like there is no you just go in crushing everyone because you have all, because it's just been so long of that. So if anything, why don't they just set them out? Like I said, like there's no point in setting the Surskit to level 100. Obviously, it's a Surskit, but like why not just set the Ogre Clan to level 100, and then if you got destroyed by them, the raids give you so much candy. Like.
Yeah,
just come back. It's not that big of a deal. Like I don't like, as somebody who loves building Pokemon and building teams and seeing all the new Pokemon, it just feels weird to be like, okay, I'm going to get them specifically to 80 to battle them.
But also, like,
but all my good Pokemon.
If you had to build for that, it also makes the mochi make more sense and be useful. Like, there are more interactions.
Yeah, but then you also have to like look up that they're like, I don't. Are they all 80? I'm assuming they're all 80.
They are. I don't know. I've only done 4.
But like at a certain point, and then you're looking stuff up, and that feels weird too.
Yeah.
Of like, oh well, then I'm going to see their team. I'm going to know what they are. I don't know. It's. I guess the nice thing is you can do that if you want to. The game's not forcing you, but like, there's only 8 of them. I don't know. Make them level 100. It's not that big of a deal. Like, you clearly put thought into their team order. They're clearly holding items. It's a little silly.
I think there are some design philosophy things that need to be thought out heavily going forward.
Overall, I like the DLC. I was a fan of it. Sounds like Hannah liked it. Sounds like Greg hated it. But that's it is what it is.
I say this: it's a solid okay for me. I don't regret buying it. I don't regret. I would be where you're at if I didn't find that storyline so offensive and so deeply, deeply troubling.
Sure. I totally get why you don't like it.
But like, I think for a DLC, as I told everybody, it's fine. It's not going to make you love this game. It's not doing anything shocking. It is just fine.
It's just more of the same game.
Yeah. I was hoping for a couple big surprises, and fixing bugs was actually a nice surprise, but that was not the surprise. That was not the gameplay surprise I was expecting. Anyways, well, thank you for listening. Thank you for making it to the end. If you're listening on YouTube, please comment, like, subscribe. That really helps out. If you're listening to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leaving us a review would really help us out. I feel like I've been bad at saying leave us a review. And if you made it to the end, just thank you. We'll be back next week. There's some more stuff to talk about with the Kieran, Carmen, and Cameron.
Kieran. You had it right.
You had it right.
Oh, I had it right. There are some actually cool lore things about their teams, but we can talk about those next week. Thank you for listening. This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are
super effective.
Super looking forward to more story about the Terra Crystals. Effective.
I want to hang out with Briar. I want all the hot gossip. There are some great women that I would love to brunch with in this region. Let's go and make it happen. Mimosas are on me, ladies.